Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's live stream. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Geoff Schmidt, and I'm the host of the live stream tonight. Now, a few points before we get going here. First, I want to thank my administrative partner, Jill, who will be working with me through the live stream tonight, asking questions that have come in by email and that are in the chat box. First, the big disclaimer. Some of the information that I give here tonight will be exact, like 1 plus 1 will always equal 2, that type of stuff. Some will apply to most of you, and some will be an educated guess about the person's specific circumstances. Because of this, please take the information as educational only. Before taking any actions on anything we talk about here, do your own research, and in many circumstances, talk to a qualified professional familiar with your specific situations. Also, just a quick thank you for some of the notes that have come through. I had several people. I think that's probably an underestimate. I had many people that asked if I was okay because I disappeared for about 2 weeks. So what happened was I went on vacation, and it's funny. Normally when I go on vacation, I prepare something for the in between time, or I record when I'm on vacation. Believe it or not, that always gets a funny look from some of the family members. But this time I went actually on vacation, and I took a vacation. The reason is because I've been working for 6 months straight, day and night, on a course called Social Security Simplified, in addition to releasing a lot of videos onto YouTube. So the course took about 500 hours of my time, and when I released it to the testing team, I gave it to them, and then I went on a real vacation. Fortunately, Jill took over from that point, and she ran the interviews with the testing team to make sure that we had all of the information necessary for you or the people that buy the course. And we made over 50 changes to the course based on the feedback from the testing team. So first of all, thanks to Jill for running the interviews while I was sleeping on the beach. And thanks to the testing team for going through and giving us great feedback. Really, we had a dozen people who tested the course, and it's just about done. So just on the course, by the way, for those of you that are interested, it's not quite ready yet. It'll be out on August 1st, and we're going to give a huge discount for the month of August. I'm thinking about calling it the Founding Members Discount. I'm not sure if there's a better idea. If you have a better idea, put it in the chat box. But in the meantime, yeah, you'll see a lot of it coming at you because we're really proud of it. We worked out all the details, a lot of the issues, and I think it's really, really special. So why don't we get going here? Enough advertising. Why don't I pass over to Jill to lead the way?
Okay, and I just want to also say thank you so much to all of you beta testers who not only just took the course, but took the time to have long conversations with me to give your really invaluable feedback. We really, really are so grateful. It will take a while for Geoff to continue through all the hours of recording and feedback, but he has, as he mentioned, already begun to really add a lot of really great things. So thank you once again so much. And we look forward to those that are joining the course to joining the community as well, because there will be a lot of engagement and conversation in the course community as well. Okay, so to start us off, we're going to start off this live with a question, and we'd love for you to bring your answer into the chat box, and then Geoff will talk about it after your response. So the question is, in what year was the first Social Security payment made? So the choices are A, 1936, B, 1940, or C, 1945. So put your answers into the chat box, and let's see what we get.
Well, I'm excited. I want to see see if they know the answer.
All right, there's a bit of a delay, so I don't see. Oh, someone's asking, can we put the volume higher?
Sure. Yep. Is that better?
It's sounding quiet. Do we sound louder?
How's that? Is that better?
Nobody's putting in yet. Okay, so far we have 1945, 1936. 1936, AAC. C's 1945, 1936. So mostly 1945 and 1936. We have one 1940, 36, 1945, 1936. So it's pretty evenly split right now between 1936 and 1945. So tell us, what's the answer?
The answer is 1940. So a bit of a trick question. Jill's looking at me like, why did you just do that? A bit of a trick question because the question was, when did someone get their first Social Security check? And it's kind of a geeky history, but since I've got you, I'll tell you. The exact check amount went to a woman named Ida Mae Fuller from Ludlow, Vermont. She received her first payment of $22.54 in January of 1940 after retiring at age 65, and she had only paid $24.75 into Social Security. So she actually got back almost 100% return on her first check. But what was really amazing is that Ida lived to be age 100. So she ended up taking $23,000 of Social Security payments from a $24.75 contribution. So lifetime benefits of $23,000 living to be age 100. So there you go. All right, Jill, why don't we jump into the questions?
Okay. So, and just also please put in the chat box if you can hear us better, because someone had just said, no, it's not. They can't. But so we'd love to hear if you can hear us better. The first question comes from James, and he asks, can you discuss the Social Security issues regarding big age difference couples?
Yep, sure. So big age different couples, this is actually a reasonably common occurrence where usually it happens with second marriages, frankly, but not always. And there are two scenarios. Scenario number one is when the big earner, we'll call them the primary insured in this live stream, the primary insured is older and the spouse is younger. This doesn't present really a big problem, frankly, because the primary insured needs to go first and file for his or her Social Security before the spouse can file for the spousal benefit. So when you are, and one example is we have one of the testers that was over 15 years in terms of their age versus their partner's age. That was the difference. I believe it was actually 17 years. And we talked a lot about this issue. In fact, this particular issue was a module we added to the course because it seemed like it wasn't really covered out there, and it's pretty important. So if the older earner, the big earner, the older earner is the primary insured, if they go first, it doesn't create a big problem. That means the spouse can claim the spousal benefit when it's his or her time to claim, because the primary insured needs to go first. However, the opposite happens a lot more frequently. And in this course, the beta testers, we had two different people that had the issue in reverse. Now, when the big earner, the primary earner, is younger, particularly big age difference younger, it creates a problem. And the problem is that the spouse can't file for the spousal benefit until the primary insured can file for their own benefit. And if they're, say, 50 and the spouse is 65, well, that means that the primary insured has at least another 12 years, if not longer, before they can file for their own Social Security benefit. So what do? Well, there's no good answer here. I'll be candid. There's no good answer here if the spouse doesn't have Social Security on their own work income. So you need to think of Social Security differently in this regard, and that is the other function of Social Security, which is to provide security for those that potentially might be left behind. And so in this case, it becomes a question of optimizing the survivor benefit. And really, to optimize the survivor benefit, we can go into a lot of detail. I think we did that on the last live stream. We can go into a lot of detail, but basically the primary insured, if they don't file, the base of the survivor benefit is the full 100% if something happens to the primary insured. And if they do file, it's going to be whatever their age was as the base, more or less. So I guess the long and the short of it is, if you've got this big, you have a big gap. If the big earner is older, it's pretty easy. If the big earner is younger, you have to think about it slightly differently, because if you are 50 and then you get to 62, do you file at 62 in order to claim the Social Security benefit for both of you, knowing that your partner is now, in that case, 77? And the answer is, there's a lot more to think about here. The partner may live to be 100, but then they may not. And so now you're locking in your Social Security payment at age 62, which is about 70% of the full retirement age benefit. So lots to think about. If you're interested in this, I'll probably put a video out on YouTube, which is going to go into a lot more detail on it. But that's really a primer for the things to think about.
Okay, great. So the next question, and thank you for putting all your questions in. We have a really engaged community tonight, putting lots of questions in. I'm going to ask you a question that came in from an email, and then we'll move to the chat box for some. Okay, so this one comes from Danielle. If I begin spousal benefits at age 62 because I've been a homemaker most of my life, what happens when I switch to survivor benefits? Is the amount of survivor benefits haircut based on my age I began claiming spousal benefits, or are the survivor benefits separate and dependent on when I claim survivor benefits? For example, if my husband passes away when I am 68, what haircut on survivor benefits will I have? FYI, his full retirement benefits are $2,584.
Sure. So there's a huge distinction here, and people get this confused all the time, between the survivor benefit and the spousal benefit. And the reason is because they both go to the spouse. And so the survivor benefit is effectively an assumption of the payment that the deceased either was receiving from Social Security or would have received from Social Security, with an adjustment. Now, what is the adjustment? Well, usually it's the filing age of the survivor. So if you have a very young survivor and you have a deceased partner who never filed for Social Security, it's easy. They get 100% as the base, 100% of the primary insured's Social Security amount had he or she actually claimed. If they never claimed, it automatically goes to 100%. If they were under full retirement age, if they were over full retirement age, it becomes the filing age, or they assume the filing age would have been at the date that they passed. But that is reduced by the filing age of the spouse when they file for the survivor benefit, not the spousal benefit. So you can actually claim the spousal benefit, and that has nothing to do with the filing age for the survivor benefit. In fact, it's one of the few instances where there is actually no look back to when the spouse filed for the spousal benefit. So two completely separate issues, two completely separate things to think about. Remember, there's a base, and that base is modified by the filing age of the spouse when the spouse files for the survivor benefit, not the spousal benefit.
Okay, great. So we'll take one from the chat box now. And we have people spanning probably all the states. Everybody's putting in where they're from.
Oh, cool.
Champaign, Illinois, Minnesota, California, Tennessee. We're all over the states.
By the way, I have to say, great school in Champaign, Illinois. In fact, that's the school that issued my
father-in-law.
My father-in-law went there, but also, if you see on the wall behind me, directly behind me, there's a CPA certificate that was issued from the university in Champaign. So, all right, let's not deviate here. I can go on forever on tangents, but let's get to the tough questions.
Okay, so Bill is asking, I'm still employed and about to turn 65. I'm covered by my employer's insurance. Can you clear up specifically what I have to do and when I have to do it with regards to signing up for Medicare?
Yes, I can. This is a Social Security question, not a Medicare question, but I can. So Medicare is available when you turn 65, and you have 3 months before age 65, the month that you turned age 65, and 3 months after age 65 to file. Now, if I were making a decision on when to file for Medicare, I would do it in the 3 months before, not the 3 months after, simply because, well, you want to get it done as early as possible. Now, if you're going to continue to work, there is a coordination with the employer with Medicare. And if it's a large employer, meaning 20 or larger, over 20 employees, then the large employer's insurance is primary. If the employer is less than 20 employees, then the employer's insurance is secondary to Medicare. But 3 months before would be my strong recommendation.
Okay, I will find all the questions Social Security related going forward.
Sure.
Okay, Kristen asks, can you explain the spousal Social Security benefit in regards to couples whose Social Security benefits are similar, but one spouse's benefit is slightly larger than the other?
Sure. So the question I believe that Kristen is asking is, what's the interplay between the spousal benefit and the spouse's own primary insurance amount? And so there's a term called deemed filing. And deemed filing basically means that if you're filing for your own insurance, your own Social Security, and the spousal benefit is larger, when your spouse files for his or her own Social Security, they will have deemed to file for the spousal benefit. If they don't file, well, then it's your own primary insurance amount, the spouse's own primary insurance amount, which is the amount that is being drawn from with Social Security. But once the larger primary insured draws, as long as the spousal benefit's larger than their own primary insurance amount, then they will have been deemed to have filed for the spousal benefit. Now, a lot of times that's not the case. And a lot of times, if you've got two earners, which are, let's say they're absolutely identical, you may never have, or you wouldn't have a spousal benefit in most cases, because if you file at age 62, you get 70% of your primary insurance amount, but the spousal benefit can only be 50% of your partner's primary insurance amount. So if they're identical, you would never really switch over to the spousal benefit, even in the worst case scenario.
Okay, Cheese Man.
Oh, I love that. Wisconsin, go.
Is it better to
go
take
Packers? Go Packers.
Is it better to take Social Security at 67 and invest your entire working paycheck, or should you invest 33% of your paycheck and take Social Security at 70?
Would you mind reading that one more time?
Yeah, sure. Is it better to take Social Security at 67 and invest your entire working paycheck, or should you invest 33% of your paycheck and take Social Security at 70?
Yep. So, Cheese Man, I think, God, I love that name, Cheese Man. That's cool. So, Cheese Man, I think there are a couple of things I'm going to frame the issues for you here, because I don't know what your health status is. I don't know what your income is from your work, and I don't know what your Social Security payment is. The issues are as follows. If you claim Social Security to invest versus letting it ride, so to speak, it works if you're at your full retirement age or older. So in other words, if you're the scenario that you're talking about, you're fine because you don't have to give any of it back to the SSA. I will say that the instances where it works for people under full retirement age are very limited, because in order to claim your Social Security payment, there are going to be income thresholds. And if you exceed those income thresholds, you're going to have to give some of your Social Security payment back. So effectively, in order to not do that, you have to draw from your investments to claim Social Security, and then take Social Security and put it back in your investment. So it becomes almost a circular activity. In that instance, you might be better off waiting. So I think the best thing to do in that instance is to talk to a financial planner and have him model it out for you. I wish I could give you a better answer than that, but unfortunately, a lot of it depends on your income. A lot of it depends on what you're investing in. A lot of it depends on what your longevity is.
Okay, next question is from Dimitri. He says, I collect Social Security. My wife turned 63 this year. She has not applied for Social Security. She works now and will be entitled to Social Security. Can she collect on my Social Security?
She can file for a spousal benefit. And remember the discussion we had about deemed filing earlier. The SSA will, once she files for the spousal benefit, they will assume that she was deemed to have chosen the larger of the two. The issue here, though, Dimitri, and this is supremely important, is if your wife is working, she does have earnings limits, no matter if she's collecting the spousal benefit or her own Social Security payment. And if she exceeds those limits, then she's going to have to give part of it back, or maybe even all of it, depending on if she's a big earner, maybe all of it back to the SSA, at least for a period of time. Now, people get confused on the second part, because when the SSA sends you a bill for a certain amount of money, they said you're over the maximum and you owe us $10,000. People think that it's actually gone. It's just never coming back. But what ends up happening is it goes back into your Social Security account. I guess that's the best way to describe it. And then when you reach full retirement age, it is your payment's recalculated with additional contribution. That additional contribution is basically what you paid back into the SSA. So you don't lose it, but given the fact that your payment's recalculated at full retirement age, you are taking some longevity risk that you're not going to get it back fully. Hopefully you do, of course, but hopefully you understand this point, and you're not giving it back in the first place, because that creates a lot of shock for people. And the biggest one, a story that I actually used in the course, was somebody who went out and they both filed for Social Security and continued to work, and they thought they had won the lottery. And they went out and bought this beautiful car, only to get a bill from the Social Security Administration about 12 months later saying, the IRS told us you're working and collecting Social Security. You can't do that over a certain threshold. In this case, it was, let's use this year's limit. It's $23,400. Anything above that, you have to give $1 back for every 50 cents, $2 for every $2 over. But assume that this person was earned like $70,000 or $80,000 a year. They had to give $25,000 back. It was a big number, and that free car wasn't so free anymore.
Okay, next question comes from a worried wife who sent it in from email. Here's the scenario. I'm the higher earner and am still working. I am currently 63 years old with a full retirement age of 67. My husband is currently 65. He is also still working. His full retirement age is 66 in 10 months. We both hope to work to 70 years old and max out our Social Security benefits. The issue is this. I am facing a very serious surgery which may happen in the next few months. I have been told there is a real possibility I might not survive the surgery. So I'm trying to understand what my husband's options will be should the surgery not go well. I know that if I pass before my full retirement age, the survivor's benefit will be my full retirement age primary insurance amount. My question is, because I am 2 years younger than him and would be 4 years prior to my full retirement age, is he still able to claim the full survivor benefits at his full retirement age, which is in October of next year?
So there are two different questions here. The first question is the interplay between his own Social Security benefit and the survivor benefit. And yes, so he can collect his own Social Security benefit when he reaches full retirement age. He can collect now. The longer you wait, the larger the payment, like anything related to Social Security. The survivor benefit, this goes back to the point I made where I'm going to say I think I know the question you're asking, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to answer 2 or 3 different versions of it. The first was, can he claim his Social Security payment and then switch to the survivor benefit later if necessary? The answer is yes. And there's no haircut on the survivor benefit. There's no deemed filing issues around that. It's just whichever one works better for him. The second is, if someone were to pass early, the base that we talked about, the base automatically gets grossed up to 100%. So if someone is 63 or 64 or 65 and their full retirement age is age 67 and they pass, well, the survivor benefit base, the one that the spouse inherits, so to speak, is 100%. It's the deceased's payment had they filed at full retirement age. Even if they didn't file at full retirement age, and even if they weren't full retirement age when the spouse claimed the survivor benefit, in that instance, it's based on the age of the survivor and when he or she claims the survivor benefit. So if your husband has reached his own full retirement age, then he would get 100% of your Social Security payment had you not filed.
Okay, and thank you so much for your vulnerability and for sending in that question.
Yeah.
And we are sending prayers and well wishes for a successful surgery and healing. Okay, so next question comes from George. Does it make sense for a single filer to wait beyond full retirement age or 1 year later to get higher payments? There is no survivor benefits involved.
Okay, so George, here is my philosophy on when to file. And I'm going to give it to you in a 30-second soundbite. Don't take this as gospel. Definitely talk to a financial planner who knows your own situation, or at least do a lot of research before you make the decision yourself. But basically, people file for Social Security at different ages for different reasons. I've never been the person that says you must file at age 70. I think that there are a lot of reasons not to do that. Conversely, I've never been the type of person that says take your Social Security at age 62 because you never know. The way to think about Social Security, and this is particularly because none of us know our expiration date, so to speak, is that people file for Social Security at different times for different reasons. The biggest one, the one that most people think about, it's the one that's front and center in their mind, is I've contributed to Social Security for my entire life, and now I want to get as much money back out of the system. It's a rational way of thinking. It's very academic in terms of how you think. It ignores whether you want more money when you're younger or older. It ignores a lot of other issues, and it's just about how much you can get in total dollar flow between now and the time the inevitable happens. The second way of thinking about it is I want to claim Social Security and maximize the benefits for a particular point in my life. And what are those points? Well, usually it's I'm young and I want to be able to do things that I can't do later. so I'd like to have more income now, so I'm going to file early. Or I want to protect myself and my family if I live a very long life and I have a lot of medical bills late in life. So at the point in time decision is different than I just want to get the maximum dollars, period, the end. It's more of an insurance way of thinking about it. The third way, we spent a lot of time talking about this on this live stream, is how do I protect my survivor? How do I protect the people I leave behind? And in that instance, it almost always favors waiting instead of going early, because waiting means that they inherit a bigger base. Remember, we talked about that base. Now, you're saying that you don't have any survivors, so that takes that one away. I would just make sure that you fully understand what survivor means, because in some instances it might even mean your parents, depending on if how much of their finances you're paying for. But the fourth one, and it's valid, it's not strong, but it's valid, is that you just need the money. Life has been hard. Things didn't break your way, and it's there, it's available. It's not the strongest argument, but I know a lot of people who just need the money. And all four of them have some form of validity depending on your situation. So it's going to be very situation specific, but I will say that the one that most people think about is either, number one, I want to get the most dollars out of the system over what I think might be my remaining life, or number three, I want to protect my survivors, and so therefore I'm going to wait to collect. So hopefully that answers your question, depending on which way you were thinking. And well, if that's not the case, shoot me an email to livestream@holyschmidt.com and I'll help you work through it.
Okay, next question comes from Bill Donnelly. Are the Social Security website estimated payments in today's dollars, or does it assume 2% COLA until my planned date of taking Social Security payment?
Today's dollars. So, sorry, Bill. The biggest, and I always have a fundamental issue with any estimates, because they're never very accurate. But when you go on to the website, the Social Security website, if you understand how Social Security is calculated, they take your best 35 years and they use something called an indexing formula. So basically, your historical earnings are indexed to today's dollars. Now, up until age 62, they don't know what today's dollars are going to look like for you, because if you went on and you said, I'm 59, what does my Social Security payment look like? Well, they're going to discount, they're going to give you an approximation. But at age 62, they know for sure what your historical earnings are going to be discounted forward to, because at age 62, that's when your historical earnings are set and they're brought into today's dollars. From age 62 onward, the cost of living adjustment is added to them. And so you'll find that if you wait, the number is going to get bigger than what you're seeing today, unless things go horribly wrong in the world. But I doubt that that's going to be the case.
Okay, next question comes from Carrie Edmonds. My wife already receives her Social Security. When I start taking mine next year, will hers automatically change to the larger spousal benefit?
So, Carrie, your question is about deemed filing. And so when you file for your Social Security benefit, and your spouse has the spousal benefit is going to be larger. I'm assuming what you're saying is the spousal benefit is going to be larger. When you file for yours, you will have deemed to have filed for the spousal benefit for her if she was on her own Social Security benefit.
Okay, next question is from Sandog. My wife is retiring at
I
age
love that,
60. My wife is retiring at age 60, and I'm 2 years older and working to age 65. Should we pull her Social Security at 62 or wait?
I can't get over the name. I love Sandog. I got to get a cool YouTube name. Actually, Holy Schmidt's pretty cool, but Sandog,
Yeah,
I like
you
that.
like Cheese Man too.
I like Cheese Man. So if I understand Sandog's question right, his wife is 60, he's 65. And should she file for Social Security when she turns 62? Is that the question?
Yes, he already takes his Social Security.
Okay.
My wife, she already takes her Social Security.
Okay, so she is...
He's going to be taking his next year. Will hers automatically change to the larger spousal benefit?
I think that might have been the previous question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Sandog. We were back to Carrie. My wife is retiring at age 60, and I'm 2 years older and working to age 65. Should we pull her Social Security at 62 or wait?
So, Sandog, the same point I made earlier is going to apply for your wife and you. 62 has merit. There are, in fact, if you look at the majority of people out there, they file for Social Security at age 62 or 63. There was a study that was done at the University of Michigan that basically took, and it was done with 2024 households, not the year 2024, but 2024 individual households. And in that study, they looked at the filing ages of these families. These are all people that are taking Social Security. And then they looked at their circumstances 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or 5 years later anyway. And they came to the conclusion that 96% of the time that group got it wrong. Now, when you think about 96% of the time, you got to say to yourself, that sounds a little bit fishy. 96% is a lot. 96% of the people got it wrong. And if it hadn't been the University of Michigan data, I wouldn't have read the report in detail. And in fact, I had to read it twice. It was very technical. And so what the report said effectively, and I knew what the answer was going to be, was that if you're going to file for Social Security and you want to maximize the dollars that are coming to you, then you don't automatically go at age 62. You look at a lot of variables, like what's the longevity of your family, what are your own needs, are you still working? And so in that study, directionally, if you were optimizing for the total dollars in those 2024 households, they might have been right. I still have a hard time getting my mind around 96%, but I could say 80% of the time for sure. You know, if it's all about one thing, if it's just maximizing the dollars in, going at age 62 probably isn't the right decision for most people. If it's about option one, if it's about one of the other variables we talked about, maybe. So I guess, Sandog, the answer is it depends. Unfortunately, that's the only one I can give you, and it depends on your individual circumstances and the variables that we talked about. Perhaps.
Okay, next question came from email from Randy. I'll reach full retirement age, 67, in March 2027, and I'd like to begin taking Social Security retirement benefits as soon as I can, without having benefits reduced due to current employment income. I'm semi-retired and typically earn gross wages of $5,000 per month. I believe that the yearly income limit will be $23,400, but I don't understand how the monthly breakdown computation works. So my question is, if I begin taking Social Security in September of 26, will I avoid the benefit reduction because I'll only earn approximately $20,000 in the final 4 months of the year? And then he asked it in another way. In my situation, does the monthly breakdown of the $23,400 limit cover all 12 months of 2026, so $1,950 per month, or only the 4 months that I'll be both working and claiming benefits?
Yep. So this one is surprisingly simple to understand. Choosing the right words is going to be a little bit challenging. So, and Randy is not not reaching full retirement age in March of 2027. He's just retiring then, right?
He will reach full retirement age 67, in March of 2027.
Okay. So there are two rules when it comes to earnings, when it comes to Social Security. There is the rule that applies in the year that you reach full retirement age, and there is the rule that applies all the other years before then. First of all, once you reach full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want, and the Social Security Administration won't take any of it back. So if you're planning on retiring in September of 2026 and you're reaching full retirement age in March of 2027, something to think about might be to work until March of 2027 and then just file for Social Security then, because then you can earn as much as you want. It almost doesn't matter. However, because of this specific circumstance, you have two different things. You have the year that you are filing for Social Security, that's 2026, and you have the year that you are reaching full retirement age, and that's 2027. The rules around earnings limits are based on calendar years, not based on 12-month years. So it would be great to say March 2027, that's my full retirement age year, and the rules are going to change. And by the way, they do change. But the rules are basically pretty simple. If you in a non-full retirement age year, you can earn up to $23,400 and not have to give any of that back to the SSA. In a year that you reach full retirement age, but you haven't reached full retirement age yet. These are 2025 numbers, by the way, Randy. They're going to be more than likely, they're going to be higher when you actually file for Social Security. But in 2025, it's $62,160 the year that you reach full retirement age. So 2027. Your question is, what happens between October of 2026 and December of 2026? Unfortunately, and this is one of those rules that works both for you and against you. Unfortunately, the SSA doesn't allow people to just say, you know what, the number is 23,400. I'm going to earn the last 20,000 in the last 3 months of the year. Now, that's the unfortunate part. The fortunate part is that someone who earns a lot of money isn't going to automatically owe tens of thousands of dollars because they earn $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, whatever their number is, and they're $40,000 over the $23,400 limit. So they break it up into a monthly number, and that monthly number is just over $1,900 a month. So any month that you're over, you have to give back $1 for every $2 you're over in that month. The year that you reach full retirement age, 2027, that number changes to $62,160. And you divide that number by 12. So in that instance, you'd be fine. But for the last 3 months of 2026, until you reach full retirement age in March of 2027, you're going to have earnings limits broken down, at least in the first 3 months of 2026 for $23,400 divided by 3. You can't exceed these monthly limits.
Okay, Robert asks, if I'm taking Social Security and earn above the limit to where half must be returned to the IRS, is there any downside compared to waiting until a later date to take Social Security For example, is there any permanent loss?
I hate this question. The answer is no, but so very astute question. And the question is, what's the difference? If I'm going to earn and then I have to give it back anyway, or I just keep contributing, doesn't the math equal the same thing? It should. Now, whenever you put human beings in the equation and they're manually recalculating your benefits rather than a computer doing it, and they're going to have to manually recalculate it. If you claim Social Security, let's just use an outrageous example. Let's say you claim Social Security from age 62 to 67 and you worked full time the entire time, and you got a bill for your entire amount at the end of every single year, and you give it back to them. Well, okay, so they're putting it back in they're putting the big deposit back in every year, and that should, in theory, grow at the same rate as if they hadn't taken it out in the first place. However, I wouldn't, if you know that you're going to be working and collecting Social Security, the better option is to notify the SSA that you're going to be working and collecting Social Security and have them stop payment, because human beings being human beings, they rise to the occasion of their income. And so if you get, call it an extra $25,000, $24,000 a year, $2,000 a month, you get an extra $2,000 a month, it's very tempting to maybe just borrow part of it and return it later when the bill comes. But I would just notify the SSA and tell them to hold your check. Or if you know you're going to be doing the strategy anyway, then just don't file until it's time, because it takes 4 months and then you're not faced with the hassle of trying to notify them and then let them know when you're not working again. Just don't file until it's time. That's probably the best way to go.
Okay, Stargazer is widowed and later got remarried and then divorced. And the question is, am I still eligible for survivor benefits?
So Stargazer was widowed?
Widowed, but then remarried. And divorced. Yes.
So, yes. So let's chat about this. I don't know your age, Stargazer, but I'm going to assume for a moment that you're age 60 or older. And there's a wonderful thing that happens, if you want to call it wonderful, I suppose. And that is, at age 60, you get the choice of the spousal benefit or the survivor benefit, whichever is larger. But if you're divorced, then you no longer get the spousal benefit unless you were married for 10 years. So in that instance, you'll probably want to look at which option is best for you. But if you were actually receiving the survivor benefit before and then you got married, that meant that you were probably 60 years old or older, because most of the time the survivor benefit doesn't pay out unless you're 50 and disabled. But most of the time you have to be 60 or older to claim the survivor benefit. And the reason I say most of the time is there are exceptions if you have young children and you're caring for young children, but I don't think that's what you're talking about here. So the answer is, if you're 60 or older, you can choose which benefit is best for you.
Okay, Markazoid asks, can one spouse or ex-spouse collect on the others early and switch to their own when they reach full retirement age, or vice versa, without a reduction?
So the question is, the spousal benefit, can I claim a spousal benefit and then switch to my own benefit later? Is that the question?
Yeah, or vice versa, without a reduction. Can one spouse or ex-spouse collect on the others early and then switch to their own when they reach full retirement age?
So remember the deemed filing discussion we talked about. The deemed filing discussion, and by the way, this is also one of the added modules in the course, because this has come up a few times. the deemed filing discussion means that if you're collecting your own Social Security benefit and your spouse files for their benefit and the spouse benefit's larger, you're deemed to have filed for the larger benefit. The switching back and forth only works one way. You can file for your own benefit, your own Social Security benefit, if your partner hasn't filed for the spousal benefit, if the spousal benefit's larger. If it's smaller, then your own benefits is the one that you would end up with anyway. So the answer is, once your partner files for the spousal benefit, once your partner files, you will have deemed to be filed for the spousal benefit if that's the larger benefit, if you're drawing on your own Social Security payment.
Okay, so Beth asks, can you please explain the payment difference between spousal benefits and survivor benefits?
Yep. Now, this goes back to what we were talking about before. So the spousal benefit, this is such a confusing topic for people because they both start with S, they both go to the same person, and they both are attached to the primary insured's Social Security payment. So the spousal benefit is a benefit that doesn't require, actually there aren't really a lot of requirements for the spousal benefit. You have to have been married for 1 year unless you have a child together, then that's waived. But basically the spousal benefit, there are no work requirements. You don't have to have worked for 10 years, which is usually the case with Social Security, or at least 9 years in a bit. And so you effectively are getting up to 50% of the primary insurance amount from the main earner. The only requirement is that the main earner has to have filed for his or her own Social Security. The survivor benefit is a transfer of the main earner's Social Security payment to the survivor with a haircut based on their age. And there are rules around, there are some exceptions around the survivor benefit. We talked about them before, but the big one is that if they have not filed for Social Security, they could be in their 40s or 50s. And if they have not filed for Social Security, the base payment is assumed to be the full retirement age payment of the deceased, so 100%. And that is adjusted based on the filing age of the survivor. Usually the survivor's younger, but you could have a situation where you have the spouse who's, I mean, we opened up with talking about big age difference couples and how to think about the survivor benefit. Well, this is actually one of the instances that we're talking about, where let's say you had a 50-year-old woman who passed away, and she was married, and her husband was age 67, and she was the main earner. And in that instance, her benefit would be grossed up to, or her survivor benefit would be grossed up to what she would have received at full retirement age many years later. Because he was at his own full retirement age, he would qualify for 100% of that. So it's complicated because it is based on two separate calculations. But the survivor benefit and the spousal benefit are different, and they're different simply because one's based on the earnings history of the primary insured, the other is based on what the haircut is to the earnings history of the primary insured. And it's no more than 50%. It can be as low as 32.5%, depending on the age of the spouse.
Okay, so Roger asks, I'm about to take benefits at 70. My wife is retired getting her Social Security benefits. She also has teacher's retirement. She will now be entitled to half my Social Security at my full retirement age and her TRO, correct?
So you're talking about the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, the elimination of that. So the answer is yes. The biggest caveat to that is that and this is for those of you that are actually talking about your own benefit versus a spousal benefit. Your own benefit is still based on the amount of Social Security contributions that you made. And but in this instance, the answer is yes.
Okay. We have 5 minutes left, so a few more questions I think we have time for. Deb asks, I'll turn 70 in December and finally start collecting. Is the old plan of applying 3 months prior to start effective timing, or should I file earlier to assure benefits begin on time?
File 4 months. I would say 4 months. So you can file up to 4 months in advance, and I mean the SSA is understaffed. They're having some issues around staffing. There are people that are moving all over the place there. I would file 4 months, not 3, and because you're asking the question, it means that you have the opportunity to plan ahead, and so use the maximum allowable time, which is 4 months.
Okay, Carl asks, is the spousal benefit an automatic based on the given Social Security payments, or does it need to be selected when filed?
Well, you need, so if I understand the question correctly, you need to actually notify the SSA when you want to collect the spousal benefit. So if I've shown you one of my cheat sheets. Actually, this is my cheat sheet, and this is my Cliff Notes on 100,000 pages of Social Security website information. But this is a handy guide, but it doesn't take the place of this bad boy right here. But that's a 1,000-page binder. The spousal benefit, you can file for spousal benefit as early as age 62 or as late as age 67, assuming that their full retirement age is age 67. And so you actually need to tell them when that's going to happen. They don't just give it to you. But I also say that people sometimes miss it and they don't file at age 67 and they continue on for no reason. It doesn't get any bigger beyond age 67. So the spouse can get no more than 50% of the Social Security payment, and that's at their full retirement age. Let's assume age 67. But people sometimes forget. They think that they also can wait until age 70 and get 124% of 50%. So is that 62%? I think it's 62%. So you have to let them know. Also, just a reminder, the spouse cannot collect his or her own Social Security payment until the primary insured files first. So the go first rule applies. If the primary insured doesn't file, then the spouse can't file. So in those instances, especially using the point we talked about at the beginning, these big age difference couples, if the primary earner is very young, you might see someone filing for the spousal benefit in their 70s, actually.
Okay, well, we'll try for one more question. Jim is asking, started drawing at 70, looked at my Social Security account and do not see my PIA listed anywhere. Full retirement age for me was 66. Is it as simple as backing 32% off my account in order to get to my current PIA?
It should be, especially if your full retirement age is 66. So for those of you that don't know, the 124% rule is for those people that have Social Security that their primary insurance age is age 67. It should, but the earlier the primary insurance amount, the larger the difference becomes, up to 132%. But it should be that. But I'll tell you what and I know we are out of time. There's something that you need to consider, and that's just making sure that your numbers were accurate when you first filed. A lot of people don't do this, but you can actually scrub your numbers, take a look at your earnings history, make sure it matches up with what the SSA has, just to make sure that the numbers that were used to calculate your payment were the correct numbers for your payment. Anyway, I believe that we are out of time. Is that right?
We are out of time, but a lot of gratitude, a lot of thank yous for all the great information you've provided from Wichita, Kansas, Atlanta, Wisconsin, California, Pennsylvania, Florida, Washington, Kentucky, Louisiana, Tennessee, and more. So a real global audience. So thank you all so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing you at our next live.
And gang, thank you so much for staying late with me. It's 8 o'clock New York time. And I'm sure for a lot of you, it's we actually worked our way into your dinner time. So thank you for your time. And Jill, thank you for being an excellent partner on the live stream. I'm going to do this again next week, and I will have full disclosure on Social Security Simplified. You'll know everything about it. It's just about done, and it should be ready on August 1st. With that, I think we should probably wrap it up.
Absolutely.
Thanks, gang, and I'll see you in a week. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.